All right. Well, thank you everybody for joining us, and hello to our friends in Michigan. It's good to virtually see you all to talk about a quick opportunity for a Michigan Future Ready cohort. We're so excited to talk to you today. Real quick, as I mentioned, we're going to record this session just for the benefit of your colleagues around the state. So it's only about 25 minutes max, and then we're going to stop the recording and we'll do any Q&A and we'll enable the audio and the video. But we've removed that just for this time for the recording for you all. Nobody wants to be hopping on from their car and all awkward in a video recording that we're going to share out. So we did that for your protection. Nobody's going to look awkward here. We're just conscious of that. The Q&A at the end we will not be recording live. But what an honor it is to join you all. I'm Tom Murray. I'm the Director of Innovation at Future Ready Schools. Done a lot of work in Michigan. Shout out to McCall and friends there. Having worked there in a lot of districts from around the state. And I'm with my colleague today. So Adam, over to you.
Thanks for that introduction there, Tom. My name is Dr. Adam Phyall. I'm the Director of Professional Learning for Future Ready Schools, and I bring you greetings from the South, dare I say the Hollywood of the South, Covington, Georgia. I'm so happy to be a part of this cohort opportunity with everyone in Michigan.
All right, and with that, we do want to give a shout out to our friends, and Mark, thanks for hopping on, to our friends at McCall, the incredible work that they're doing. And anything we're going to be sharing with you here, we're not coming in to step on somebody's toes throughout the state. That's not our goal. Do it in collaboration and support of the awesome work that's happening throughout your incredible state. And with that, we want to kind of begin with the end in mind. We've partnered with Connecticut and did work with them, Louisiana, and we're wrapping up a cohort there as well, Massachusetts, and some other states throughout the country to share with you an opportunity that we're going to have to support your team, your leadership team, over a period of time. And so we want to give you a glimpse into what that looks like. So here's just a quick roundup from what we did in Connecticut for you to get a glimpse of what we'll be talking about.
This whole movement really started as a grassroots effort. We had conversations and ended up starting up this cohort that's got now more than a dozen school districts working together to develop strategic digital learning plans.
I've been going to all of the in-person and online experiences, conferences here, and I've learned a lot. I've learned a lot about technology, leadership, and today, for example, one of my big takeaways is the framework for having conversations with people about how we can be better together, about how we can get to that place in education where we know that the center is student achievement and it's student success and student health. And we do that by building leadership teams that understand that we have to hold our hands and move forward together, because together we can make anything happen. It's great networking here. It's great meeting everyone and hearing what they're doing in their schools and how they can build their schools to find student success.
It's been a huge benefit to us because it allowed us to network with other districts, to realize that we're in the same position that other districts are in, and to gain the networking ability to help us propel our district to become future ready.
One of the most important things was to start with a strong why statement. We spent a lot of time as a team really developing that, which then in turn helped us to set some actionable goals. When we looked across our strategic school plan, what our survey said, and then when we know our students and teachers need, we were able to create those actionable goals that we know we will use in the future to make sure that we're striving towards achievement for all.
Listening to Jimmy Casas today speak about recalibrating and how to look at things from a different angle and make sure we're really looking at what's the best interest for everybody and putting people at the heart of what we're doing as opposed to just the teaching that we do, and making sure we're doing what we're doing for our kids.
These past 7 months has been an amazing opportunity for our district and for myself as a director of technology. It has given us a great foundation for our district to work off of, not only in terms of technology, but what we're doing with curriculum and instruction, budgeting and resources, and being able to align ourselves not only with our portrait of a graduate, but also what our Future Ready Schools technology plan is going to look like to make sure that we are providing everything we possibly can for our students to be prepared to go out into the community and society and be successful individuals.
It really is a community that builds itself and makes everybody stronger. I would encourage everybody who hasn't considered being involved in a cohort to put it on their priority list to make that commitment moving forward.
So you got to hear a little bit about the cohort experience in Connecticut that we'll be working with McCall on in Michigan. So Adam, let's start with why.
Yeah, because anytime we do this work, you always want to know why. Start with your why, and then everything else just makes sense. And so when we talk about this work, ultimately, we're student-centered, student-focused. And so this work, while we're doing this work, you get a chance to do the work to ensure that your students have the future that they deserve. Because we know, as was said in the video, this is not easy work. And it's very difficult to do it alone. And we are always stronger together. So working in this cohort, you get the opportunity to work with your peers around some of these same issues so we can emerge stronger together. Stronger together. That kind of sounds like something I've read before somewhere, Tom. But I digress there. We know we have these funds that we receive, our CARES and ARPA funds. And one of the things that we want to make sure is we're able to utilize those funds to have systemic impact across your entire district. And so being a part of this allows you the opportunity to utilize those funds to not only just have that single purchase, but something that will continue to reap benefits within your districts. And we all know that that financial cliff is coming. We have these funds and that cliff is there. One of the things that the cohort really focuses in on is sustainability. So when you have those resources, what comes next? So now that you have those funds, you've been able to purchase and put some things into your districts. What does that look like when that cliff comes? How are you going to be able to sustain some of those innovative practices that you currently have in your district? And really, we're talking about identifying and redesigning areas of need to better serve each and every one of the students in your district. This isn't saying, okay, take your strategic plan and throw it out of the window or anything of that nature. We really want to work with what you already have in place to really bolster and sustain and have some sustainability around the work that we're doing. And we do all this by leveraging our Future Ready Schools resources and tools to really help you accomplish and achieve your goals within your districts. Now, we talked about why. So what? Well, we have leadership, training, and this network that we've been talking about. So not only the districts within Michigan that will be taking a part of the cohort, but also all the other districts across the country that have taken a part of this cohort, you'll have access to all of their resources. And we actually will give you an action plan that you can take and immediately utilize within your space. Because nothing's worse than going through some of these workshops or trainings and you have all these really great ideas. They don't give you anything to do afterwards. You feel all full and energy, but what comes next? We're not about that. We want to make sure that we give you an action plan and steps to ensure that your plan can be implemented in your space. And we do that by providing our customized tools, utilizing our Future Ready framework. We have our assessment tool that you can utilize and really hone in on what works in your specific space. Because what works in Connecticut may not work in Michigan. What works in Georgia may not work in Michigan. We want to make sure that whatever we're doing works for you. And as we're doing this work, it can't be done alone, as I said earlier. So we're asking each district that takes part of that up to 10 different people to be a part of your cohort group. And who should that be? Well, we don't just want technology people. We want to ensure that there's leaders across the board within your area. So anyone from superintendents, technology directors, your curriculum team members, your principals, they are in those buildings. We want to ensure that they can support the work that we're doing around here. Professional learning coordinators, instructional coaches. But the best thing about it is you decide the best individuals to be a part of your cohort team, because we want to ensure that you have who you need at the table to make the right decisions and in turn be able to implement the actions that we're asking each and every one to take from developing their plan.
So in taking a look, and thank you for that, for Adam. And again, each district team customizes their team what's right for them. Obviously, some districts that maybe here are listening to this may be large and have lots of personnel. Others might be small and tiny and up there in the UP and say, hey, you know, our whole overall team is only X number of people. We can only have X number of people, and that's okay. But the key is we can't do this work alone. And so creating a cohort to be able to come together to support it. Let's talk about what we can provide to support that for you. And number one is really this deeper level of support to leverage that Future Ready framework, creating this, using this framework and going through the framework, which I'll mention here in just a moment, for sustainable change. And so with that, it's important many times in working with so many districts around the country, and Adam and I are both former technology leaders. I'm a former principal and district level leader as well. So many times in districts, the left hand doesn't know what the right hand's doing. The curriculum department's pointing at the technology department and vice versa, and back and forth. And how can we flatten that a little bit? And the Future Ready framework gives us some common language to talk about a research-based, evidence-based areas. We call them gears for change. And so throughout the cohort, we work through all the different areas from curriculum instruction and assessment. It's not our role at the national level to tell you what to teach by any means. We understand the politics of that in every state. but we want to make sure that it's relevant for today's modern learners. We have resources like, what is the world of work projected to look like in the state of Michigan? What are the industries that are growing? What are not? And having conversations with you all on how are we preparing kids for that from a teaching and learning end. You see personalized professional learning. How do we remove that one size fits all approach to how are we making it more personal for our teachers and for our educators as ultimately then for our kids? You'll notice robust infrastructure. Obviously, it's been a a pandemic. It's been front and center throughout, and many districts have invested a lot of money throughout home access and those types of things as well. But how do we make sure that it's sustainable moving forward, especially as these funds from the COVID relief funds start to dry up very, very quickly? Budget and resources. Adam mentioned the word sustainability. It's one of the keys to the cohort. How do we make sure we have a sustainable plan? And being a key throughout the cohort, we want districts to be able to go back to their boards and say, here's our refined vision that aligns with our overall strategic plan and things that you already have in place. And by the way, this is our plan to keep it sustainable moving forward, especially after these funds start to dry up in the very near future. Community partnerships, how are we engaging with our community, our churches, or places of worship, or our world of work, and what does that look like? Data and privacy. Obviously, if you're a tech leader, front and center on your radar, and that's something we've got a lot of resources for to support. And use of space and time, learning spaces, spaces in which kids learn, and how do we use time a little bit differently? And on the outside of it, you'll notice that culture, the leadership and culture piece to it. And so we work through those different components throughout the cohort, spark a lot of conversations that are very collaborative between the districts throughout the state to keep those things moving forward. The second piece is we leverage a research-based assessment. We've had over 2,000 school districts throughout the country. It's hard to get 5 districts to do the same thing. We've had over 2,000 school districts utilize our Future Ready self-assessment since inception. It's the one tool recommended by the U.S. Department of Education. That's a non-Department of Education tool, and it's been recently updated. And I'm talking recently in the last number of months, updated, and we're doing a new launch related to that. But the cohort gets access to that as well as an action planning tool. What's really neat about that is districts that go through the cohort are able to take a self-assessment, to take a look at where they fall in the different gear areas that I referenced really quickly. And then they get a report that comes back. You can see some of the scores that are there. These are types of things that you can pull into board reports. You can pull into next year's budget cycle and say, hey, part of the reason that we need to increase over here is because when we look at our self-assessment, here's the data. And then you can also look, there's rubrics that it falls down to with recommended next steps. If you fell in this area, here's some next steps for your vision and for your plan moving forward to be able to support it, all fully flexible, all fully customizable for the district, because we recognize each district is very unique and we need to be able to honor that and recognize that and support that. 2 other pieces that the cohort will provide. Number 1 is high octane professional learning. Listen, Adam and I have the privilege of doing professional learning all over the country. And the last thing we want to do is just sit and get drone you out, that kind of stuff. That's not the case. We want to model great PD, give you really useful experiences. We recognize there's so much on your plate already. And so we want to make sure that it's very relevant, very thought-provoking, and also supports your work moving forward. And then the other piece is some time for your district team in reflection. We recognize every district throughout the state that's listening to this already has amazing things happening. How do we build on those pieces? How can we be really very real about our needs and honest about our needs and create an action plan around those needs moving forward? And so we give you some time for reflection and networking and working with other districts throughout the state to help develop that plan. Really neat opportunities there. So taking a look at what this looks like. And so the plan would be, we're going to be launching it after the new year. We do monthly 2-hour virtual sessions that the cohort decides when they are. Part of the beauty of the cohort, it's not just here's what's done to you. You've got a voice in this mix. So we actually start out with a survey to ask you, what are the days of the week that are best for your team? Is it morning? Is it afternoon? And then we do our best to create a calendar to be able to support that and get all of those up front so that people's calendars can be adjusted and so on as needed. And so each month there's about a 2-hour virtual workshop. It's our job to make 2 hours feel like 20 minutes. And to make sure it's a really good use of your time, because the last thing anybody wants is an additional meeting. We get that, and we've lived that world. Second thing is we're also in our partnership with McCall going to do a full day in-person workshop for those participating cohort members at McCall in 2024 in March. You can also see an overlay of the Future Ready with district-specific priorities. So we'll leverage that frameworks and we'll work with you on the support for things that you have going on in your districts and priorities for your district. based on that future ready framework, which is again is very evidence-based. And that's the key here, not just fly by night, not just the latest trend, making sure that the work and the action plans are very evidence-based. And then finally, creating and curating our future ready resources to support your team for implementation. We've got a lot of evidence-based types of strategies that have come out of research and support to be able to work with you on that. And that's all things that you get as part of that cohort. I want to take a moment to just take a look at one plan that's come out. And before anybody's heart stops and says, oh my gosh, when would I have time to do that? I showed you Connecticut. So we're going to show you one of the plans that came out of Connecticut that they wanted to share with their board, that they wanted to share with their community. Now, one of the things that I will share with you is Adam and I in the cohort walk you through month by month baby steps to create an action plan, but ultimately as a district, you decide what's best for you. This district didn't do every single gear area and goals in each gear area. They focused on 3. So I'm going to pull up futureready.link/the Westport plan here to give you a really quick example from Westport Public Schools in Connecticut. You saw the video from Connecticut. They were one of the districts that were there. So what they did is they leveraged our action planning template that we walked through month by month to create this for their board and their community to talk about, here's our vision, here's some strategies, here's our timelines, here's where we're going. And they chose over the next 3 years. We've had districts say, here's kind of our 5-year plan. They walked hand in hand with their strategic plan. And you'll notice they chose leadership, curriculum instruction and assessment, data and privacy, and robust infrastructure for their digital learning plan. Not a type of plan that just we spend hours on and then we put it on a shelf and nobody ever looks at it. That's not the goal there. The goal is to create a plan that's actually usable, that we can work with our board to say, here's why we're adjusting the finances with the fiscal cliff that's coming, with all the money that's drying up. Here's how we're going to make it sustainable. And you can say, and again, this is one example of one plan. And as part of the cohort, you get a whole bunch of plans from all around the country that can support your work if it's useful for you. Now, it's not a gotcha in the sense of you've got to turn something in at the end. We walk you through the process to get you to that point, but ultimately what would you do with it is up to you. We are meant to be a support, not a hindrance in any sort of way like that. So just want to be clear with that as well. Adam, I think I just grabbed 1 or 2 of your slides there, my friend. Anything that I've mentioned that you want to jump in on so far?
Oh yeah, I mean, I totally get it because this stuff is exciting, and when you're going with it, you want to keep going. And one thing I just want to point out, 99% of the work that we provide to districts out there is of no charge. All the resources that are on our website, you can use today at no cost. But for something like this, is going to be 6 months of work that we'll be having dedicated time with districts, walking them through the plan. We have the face-to-face meeting, things that nature. So there are some costs involved in it. So for a district, now this is per district, this is not per individual. For a district, it's $6,500 per district to take part in our 2024 cohort. The commitment date that we're asking is December 8th to make that commitment, to say you want to be a part of that. Now, for districts who can make a commitment earlier, let's say by right here, November 22nd, you receive a 10% discount for the full cohort cost of $5,850. So that's for districts who are ready to go ahead and say, yeah, we're ready to make that commitment there. And we have a URL, futureready.link/MIcommit. If you're ready able to do that, to make that commitment, you can go ahead and do that. Now, for the cohort, I do want to let you know that we are not trying to get every single district in Michigan to be a part of this, because we want to make sure we can dedicate the time to the districts that are being part of this. So we're looking for a minimum of 10 districts, a maximum of 20 districts to take a part of this program, because we definitely want to ensure that Tom and I can give each district, each person that's a part of this cohort, the time that they need to really develop and work through the plan that's best for them in their areas.
Great, thanks for that. And we will share that via email there as well. So when we look at the timeline, we mentioned by December 8th, if we want to launch something into early into 2024, once we have the groups that will be joining us for it, we're going to then do a survey to get a feel for, as I mentioned earlier, what's best for folks when they're able to meet, when they're able to have conversations. Obviously, the one that is going to be set is the McCall date and meeting there in person. So that's that survey in mid-December. January and February would then be virtual sessions. Again, those 2-hour sessions where we're collaborating from people throughout the state Adam and I are supporting you. We're giving you resources, giving you access to tools to be able to support your vision and your plan for what that's going to look like in person then at McCall in March, and then April through June, more virtual sessions and time to problem solve, collaborate with others, and get feedback as well on some visions and some plans for your district. We do want to make the slides that we've created here available to you. So if you want these, obviously this is a conversation that you go back to folks in your district or your team. You go to futureready.link/mi slides. You can have access to those there as well. We'll also make sure you have access to the recording. We are going to pause here in just a moment, but taking a look, if you want to reach out to Adam or I directly, you can see our email addresses there as well. Sarah Hall is our executive director, her email address there as well. But we are going to pause this in just a moment. Adam, before I hit stop recording and we enable people's voice for any questions that we have, anything that you want to add before I pause the recording?
No, I'm just excited to be able to work with Michigan. Unlike you, I haven't had a chance to really do a lot of work out in Michigan, so I'm really excited to get out there.
Yeah, some good folks there as well. I'm going to go ahead and pause the recording.